week 2 of the season, and we're in Sedlescombe, East Sussex for Tour School and the February instalment of the 2011 OBA Tour. Last month at Epping, it was gold and green all the way as West and East Houses picked up the spoils thanks to Duncan O'Leary and Tom Bates respectively. No biscuit here in Sedlescombe though meant that O'Leary wouldn't be able to improve on his position at the top of the Race to Woodford leaderboard, and it would be the foursome of Hawthorn, Bates, Rutherford and Springett vying for position, the latter making his long-awaited comeback onto the Tour. After the players had spent the morning preparing with their T-School coaches, we joined the action on the first with West House's Fish Rutherford to open the day's play. It was wood for Fish at the first, but not the good kind. Although he was fortunate to bounce back off the tree and into the open, allowing him to recover onto the fairway for 2 at the long par 4. Sevy's short game was called into action sooner than expected after finding trouble from the first tee. And after struggling somewhat up the fairway, he would eventually walk away with a 10. Burns had got off the tee in the finest style with the driver, setting up a fairway wood, then a wedge into the green. But it was Sprogett whose approach play was on the best form, with this into the green from 70 yards. He would finish up from there for 2 points. Springett's short game was on display again at the second, with this world-class recovery from an awful bunker lie. He would scramble a 7 from here. It was at this point that the weather in Sedlescombe took a turn for the worse, and all power to the on-course cameras was severed by waterlogged ground. The tourists though battled on, with Rutherford hitting a good patch of form, snapping up the longest drive on his way to 2 pars and a bogey in the next 3 holes. He would continue to score on each hole for the remainder of the day, thanks to a bipolar mix of pars and double bogeys. Sevy recovered from an inauspicious start to rack up some respectable points as the tourist approached the close of play on day 1, using his handicap strokes to good advantage and grinding out 7 points over the last 4 holes, most notably on the par 4 8th, where he recorded a net birdie and 3 points. The story of the afternoon though was a drop in form by the previously unshakable Burns. A drive at 8 which ricocheted back off of a tall oak immediately put the East House player on the back foot, and he would need 3 further shots to hit the green, albeit avoiding trouble en route. Burns was unable to get away with another 3-putt and failed to score for the first time of the day. At the 9th though, things went from bad to worse. A leaky drive, a poor lie and some devilish bad luck left Bates playing 4 with a 130-yard carry over the pond and into the green. A thin 7-iron scooted into the drink, and the 2 identical wedge shots that followed from behind the hazard failed to make the carry. With any hope of points at the 9th sinking to the bottom of the pond, Burns eventually scored 13. Overnight, the leaderboard looked like this, with strong finishes from Fish and Sprogett relegating Bates to 3rd place on the leaderboard, with Sevy beginning his own comeback several points behind. Rutherford led Sprogett by a single point. The shock news on Sunday morning, ahead of round 2, was the last-minute withdrawal of Sevy Hawthorn from the field. Taken ill by a virus, and given his position on the leaderboard, he felt it prudent to follow the advice of his doctors and get some rest. At the start of play on day 2, the remaining 3 tourists were faced with the small matter of the nearest the pin contest at the 10th. With Springett having pulled left and Fish pushing right over the bunker, just about anything down the middle would seal the point for Bates. Anything that is except a fat shot which made it only halfway to the green. On inspection, Sprogett was the closer of himself and Fish and took his first nearest the pin of the season. A 5 at the par 3 after this miss for Fish, and 4s from both Sprogett and Burns meant that the scores were evening themselves up straight away. Fish's woes worsened at 11 where he struggled around the green. Then after a 5 from Burns and a 6 from Sproggett, Fish now trailed the joint leaders by 1 point. Never one to let sleeping dogs lie, Fish was looking to respond immediately with an audacious second shot to a heavily protected green at the 12th. The high-risk shot bore high rewards for Rutherford as he managed to get up and over the tall trees, landing safely having cut the corner onto the green. He would 2-putt for par. Fish looked to have run into trouble on 14, thinning this iron over the green and into the hazard. With Burns having already recovered well from the rough to finish at the front of the green, the pressure was on. Rutherford's provisional wasn't a great deal better though. Remarkably, he would find and be able to play his first ball, getting up and down and saving his par. After bouncing out of the trees on 14, Sproggett wasn't so lucky at the 15th. Having already had to take a penalty drop to here, Sproggett would need to chip out and play a further shot to get near the green. Fish was playing his 5th from here, having already chipped over the green twice. He would take 2 putts on his way to a 7. And with Sproggett not having scored on the hole either, a bogey would be enough for Burns to take the lead. Going into the last 3 then, Burns led Fish by a point, with Sproggett just 3 further points behind, and everything all to play for. Burns' drive at 16 was too long and ended up in the ditch right of the fairway. Sproggett and Fish, playing safe to the dogleg, easily made the green in 2. Sprogs needing just 2 putts to get down for par. Fish would take a 5, while Burns, after 2 further trips into the woods, would card a 9. 17 was a relatively straightforward affair for all involved, with Fish playing the best of the shots and pulling a further point ahead of the field after this approach to the green.
That's right, Fishy.
Fish's 2-point lead at the last was put at risk straight away as he flew out of bounds off the tee. Sproggett would do likewise, leaving Burns the opportunity to drive down the middle. Sproggett and Fish, both laying 3, needed some big shots to recover. Sproggett couldn't keep his second ball in play though, effectively ruling himself out of the competition and leaving Fish and Burns to scrap for the points. Having reached the green in 3, Burns knew that a par for him would guarantee the victory, provided that Fish failed to score. Rutherford kept the pressure on though, with this impressive pitch to the back of the green out of the deep rough. Fish would need to sink the putt in order to score a point and force a playoff at worst. Burns would make his own putt, scoring a 5, 3 points and his first tour victory of the season. Next up it's back to London and Trent Park, but for now it's Easthouse who are the champions of Sussex.